Ding dong. Red Blue is dead? Question mark? Exclamation point? Hopefully? It might be. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Madhouse. We have our next set. We have Archazia Island reveals, and it is awesome. We've got like 35 cards to look at, and one of them might be the death of Red Blue. Unfortunately, it might also mean the death of Blurple, but it might mean the death of Red Blue, and I think everyone's pretty excited about that. Maybe not Sailor, but oh man, is it pretty awesome. And we've got some great cards to look at. We've got some new mechanics to look at. This is just exciting. So we're gonna jump into it. But before we jump into the new stuff, thank you. All right. Just thank you so much. I never thought I'd have a YouTube channel. I never thought I'd have a YouTube channel that is about Disney product. And I have both now, and it's pretty awesome. And you guys make it awesome and support me, and that is awesome. And I want to be able to try and support you guys and give back. So to do that, I'm doing my 1K subs giveaway. What's going to be in the giveaway? Well, we've got a trove that is from the new set that is sponsored by Safari Zone Collectibles. I am throwing in the new Lilo and Stitch collector's set that's going to have that full art Lilo in it. And I'm also throwing in two of these that my buddy is making for us. This is the lore counter I use in my commentary videos. It's magnetic. It's going to be the same color scheme. I'll also throw in the two characters. So we have that you can use. It's pretty awesome. I'm throwing in a Maribel Set Champs promo card. I'm throwing in a Scar Set Champs promo card. And then as time goes on, we'll probably throw in some other things that strike my fancy, but those are the guaranteed things right now. And I just want to say thank you. So you have to enter by the 1st of March, 2025. That way I can let people know who won and get them the product before they go and buy the product. Make sure you like, comment, and you subscribe, or that you are subscribed to the video. The reason for this is that when you like and comment, that's how the system that I use to select the winner, that's how it chooses the winner, okay? And then just let me know, what kind of card are you most hoping to see in this set? For me, what I most want to see is I want to see some kind of steel song card that lets me interact with my discard for songs, whether it's to bring it back to my hand, cast it, whatever it is. That's what I want. Probably too broken, probably not going to happen, but a man can hope, okay? We got a card that might be the end of Red Blue. Maybe I'm asking for too much at this point, but no, thank you so much, everybody. All of this is because of you, and I really appreciate it. So like, comment, make sure you're subscribed, and we're going to have some fun mailing a bunch of stuff to a bunch of winners. So with that being said, let's jump into the first, new mechanics. And with that, we have Dual Ink and Vanish. So Dual Ink we've known about for a minute, but we didn't exactly know what it was going to do. And how it works is dual ink cards belong to two inks and have characteristics from both of them. To include them in your deck, you must be playing those two colors, all right? So if you are utilizing Bell, which is something we've seen for a while now, it is red blue, it is ruby sapphire. You can only play that Bell in a ruby sapphire deck, all right? So a lot of people were hoping maybe you could play it in a ruby emerald deck. Well, no, you can only play the dual ink card in the ink colors that it is, right? So if it's in emerald sapphire dual ink card, you can only play it in an emerald sapphire deck, all right? So, Vanish. When we've seen this one, when an opponent chooses this character for an action, banish them. So, you could have a 300 Pascal, right? And it's massive, it's huge, it quests for 1,000. But if they use a Let the Storm Rage on it that deals 2 damage to your 300 character, you banish that character. Okay, so if you use an action on a character that has Vanish, it is banished. That's a wrap. So, ladies and gentlemen, those are the new mechanics. Let me know how you like them. Let's jump into the first card, and it's a doozy. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Bolt Super Dog. He is a 5-cost inkable 3/5/2 steel song card. He is a amber steel card, and he is a shift 3. He is Mark of Power. Whenever you ready this character, gain 1 lore for each other undamaged character you have in play. Bolt Stare. Exert this character. Banish chosen illusion character. This is crazy, 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 crazy strong in my opinion. I'm gonna call it right off the bat. I think it's a 5. And I'm going to call it a 5, not because we can immediately throw it in our deck because we don't have a shift target yet, but because if we do get a shift target, it is an auto include in my opinion. This card is insane because now what this card, first off, Bolt Stare. It is you can just banish a character because you turn sideways. Like you're doing what Amber Steel wants to do, but with a character as well. And that is wild. You don't have to draw and rely on getting that song card to do it. And then the other part, whenever you ready this character, gain 1 lore for each other undamaged character you have on play. So even if on turn 3, you are able to shift this, let's say turn 1 you play Cindy, now what's happening is you're controlling the enemy's board with that Cindy, you shift this on turn 3, Cindy's still controlling the board, and because you've controlled the board so well, they can't banish your Cindy, so you gain a lore when at the start of your turn. This is essentially Queen Censor Core, which is letting you gain a lore at the start of your turn as long as you have a princess or a queen in play. And Bolt's doing that, but with any character that is undamaged. So imagine you have a resist character that is singing songs and also has resist, so it's hard to banish anyways. Like, this is just gaining you passive lore while you control the board and you aggro out. This card does so much on top of being inkable, on top of questing for 2. I don't care if it's a Medusa target. I don't care that it's only 5 health. It doesn't get banished by Fox. Like, this card does a lot. I'm super obsessed with this card, and I am super excited to try and make it work no matter what shift target we may or will see in the short future. So our first card, I'm giving it a 5. Maybe I'm biased because it's Steel Song, but you know what? I don't care. So there we go. Bolt is a 5 in my book. Next card, we have Jafar, Aspiring Ruler. He's a 3-cost inkable, 3/2, quest for 2, and his ability is That's Better. When you play this character, chosen character gains Challenger +2 this turn. And this is kind of exciting. If we looked at Steel cards, I don't see this. There might be a world where you could put this in Amber Steel. I'm not sure. It'd be cool. Maybe you give it to your 2-cost 1/3 or your 2-cost 1/4 Ursula, and now they can challenge into things if they think it's because your opponent thinks they're safe. And meanwhile, he quests for 2. He's kind of like a bonsai, but he's inkable and has an amazing, crazy effect like Challenger +2 for one of your characters. So that makes Ursula just absolutely insane. That's pretty good, and questing for 2 is really nice. So maybe just throwing him in an aggro deck is really good. Maybe throwing him in Purple Steel and it's a crab that quests for 2. It's not as good as crab by any stretch of the imagination, but it's still not bad. I think he will definitely find his way into decks. This is a Jafar Steel card for sure. One of the things that Jafar Steel struggles with is being able to control the enemy's board while it's waiting to get its shift targets down and get the shift down, and this definitely helps you to do that. So even your blue fairy that's a 1/1 becomes something that can do a lot of damage. So I really like this card. I'm gonna give it a 3 for now. It might be more like a 4. But maybe I'm just too pumped about Bolt, and maybe I'm just giving too much of a high ranking to everything right now. But for now, Dreamborn Villain Sorcerer, we're going to give it a 3. I think it will most definitely see play, and because that quest for 2 is what really seals the deal on this being a good card. So I'm really excited to see what people do with this card as well. And the fact that it's not dual ink, so we could see this in a lot. Imagine giving your Calhoun Challenger +2. So now your Calhoun is a 5/2 with resist +1. Not too shabby. All right, our next card, we have Giant Cobra, our first Purple Steel dual ink card. It is a 3-cost inkable, a 4/4/1. It is our first Vanish card, And Mysterious Advantage. When you play this character, you may choose and discard a card to gain 2 lore. So this is really exciting. First off, it's a 4/4, so no Medusa. All right, for all you, it's a 3. Medusa can kill. No, now it's a 4/4, so Medusa can't target it. Purple Steel is already going pretty fast. We saw Melissa do really well at the 5K with it and doing really fast things. So you play this, it might. I mean, it probably just replaces Rose, I think, because that ability to potentially gain 2 lore, still quests for 1. It's still a 4/4. So it might just replace Rose in Purple Steel decks. This reach that it gives you to gain 2 lore is just massive. Like that is so strong to gain 2 lore. So I think for this one, I'm going to give it a 4. I think it's a really, really strong Purple Steel card that will most definitely see play. I'll kind of wait to see what JDRR says on this one because I'm sure when he saw this card, he's already cooking. He's already super excited, probably already updating the guide for the next set. But this Purple Steel just wants reach, right? It aggroes out early with Smees and all those 1-drops, and then you have Goats and Roses, and now Giant Cobra, maybe instead of Rose, or maybe with Rose, Goat, and Giant Cobra. I think it's a 4. I like it a lot. I think it's going to be a good one. So let's move on to our next card. We got Raja. All right, she is a 2-cost inkable, a 3/3/1 with Vanish. And ladies and gentlemen, if you guys needed more evidence of how strong Mr. Smee is, this card, unfortunately, so 3/3/1, that's cool. It's I'm gonna give Raja 2, to be honest. It I don't know. It's cool that it's a 3/3, but when I think about Blurple on turn 2, I'm ramping. If I look at green purple, I'm playing extra 1-drops or Ursula. If I look at Purple Steel, I'm playing Smee or Calhoun. And I just don't see a purple deck that cares about playing this. Purple, red, purple. Maybe red, purple, because they don't have good 2-drops. So I'd wait to see kind of what Ed does, or No I'm Not, some of those better purple players. And maybe purple cares about this. It's an inkable, it quests for 1, and it trades with stuff. So maybe that's a good thing for them. But even then, I don't know. I'm gonna give it a 2. Unfortunately, yeah, Raja, you're a 2 for me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, bud. All right. Moving on, we've got Cusco. Like, I love this artwork, but let's talk about the card. He's a 4-cost on inkable. He's a 2/2 quest for 2, and he is a Amethyst Emerald. He is a purple green dual ink card. He has evasive. We can figure this out. At the start of your turn, choose 1. Each player draws a card. Each player chooses and discards a card. Interesting. He is a king. I don't know how much that matters, but right off the bat, I'm thinking, I wonder what Mo thinks about this card. And he's evasive, and he's questing for 2. So those are 2 really good things. Unfortunately, a 4-cost evasive isn't as good as it used to be when you have cards like Genie, because Genie can just easily take this out. Elsa comes down the next turn and takes it out. At the start of your turn, choose 1. Each player draws a card. Each player chooses and discards a card. You can kind of use that to your advantage. I don't know how much you'd be worried about each player choosing and discarding a card when you're purple-green. You really want those cards, so it doesn't do well with Shift Clarabelle because you'd rather them have cards, but maybe that's when you let them draw a card, right? Because you're about to Shift Clarabelle on turn 5, and then after that, you're using him to make them discard a card. The other thing is you don't have to turn him sideways. It's just at the start of your turn, you choose 1. So I'm thinking a 2 again on Cusco. I don't see how he fits into green purple right now. If he had Ward, he would be pretty broken, I think. I think that Ward would really do a number for him instead of evasive, but just being a 2/2 evasive, he can't really quest. Genie will just blow him up. Elsa blows him up even if he doesn't quest. So yeah, unfortunately, green purple's not ramping into ink. I think he's going to be a 2. It's a cool effect. I love choose 1 effects because it lets better players really optimize what they're going to do with different cards. So it almost feels like it's like what does Magic call it? The sideboard. Like it almost feels like that when people describe to me what sideboards are in Magic the Gathering, where you have these choose 1 effects. But unfortunately, I think four cost on inkable is just a little slow for what green purple is trying to do. So I'm gonna go with a 2 for Cusco to match his 2/2 there and his 2 there. Anyways, moving on. Next up, we have Mufasa, and look at this artwork. Oh man, it's sexy. But Mufasa Among the Stars is a 7-cost inkable, a 5/7/2. He's a shift 5, he is an evasive, and he has resist +1, as well as being a mentor and a king. Now, looking at purple steel, I don't think either one of those things matter right now. In purple steel, there is not a Mufasa shift target, I believe. So yeah, I don't think there's a purple or a steel card for you to shift onto for 5 ink, or at the 5 ink part. Evasive resist 1, he's a big boy that's not going to get banished by much at all, and even your resist characters that can hit it aren't going to do anything. But so if you get him down, if we right now, even see, and shift 5 is just so expensive for only questing for 2 for what purple steel is trying to do. I'm going to give him, it might be another 2. I'm going to give him a 3. He's a big boy that quests for 2. I'm gonna give him I'm gonna give him a really optimistic 3, and really optimistic because I'm hoping for a Mufasa target for him, a baby Mufasa. But even then, shifting for 5 is just a little too slow, and if you don't have the shift target, then he's way too slow. But he is inkable, so the fact that he's inkable is really helpful. He's a beautiful artwork. An extremely optimistic, very low 3. Most likely should be a 2 or a 1. But yeah, Mufasa, I'm hoping you get a shift target because right now you're probably unplayable. But you just can't give Mufasa a 1. Moving on. Ink Geyser. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a blue-green card. Each player exerts all the cards in their inkwell. Then each player will, with more than 3 cards in their inkwell, returns cards at random from their inkwell to their hand until they have 3 cards in their inkwell. So, imagine for a second that you're a blue steel or a red blue or a blurple player. You're sitting really happy. You've done all these ramp things. You've gotten up to, 8 ink, 9 ink. You're like, I can Tamatoa, I can dime stuff. And then all of a sudden, this green blue player throws down Ink Geyser. And all of a sudden, now your hand is full. You're super happy, but unfortunately, the only thing you can do is play a Tipo. Like, the only thing you can do is play your Brawl. And meanwhile, they're just going to quest out. Because the kind of deck that will run something like this is most likely some kind of green-blue aggro thing. Run some Go-Go's, you'll run some other aggro things, maybe like a Windy Darling, maybe an Alice, whatever you fancy. So imagine that you're a deck that needs a lot of ink to do really fancy turns, and then all of a sudden they play this card. It is a uninkable 3 cost, which is unfortunate, but the effect on this card is wow. Just wow. And I'm going to give it a 5. Like, probably extremely biased here. Maybe it's not that strong, but I think it is. I think the ability to just completely cancel out an entire deck's game plan that they've been working on for so long is so strong. Because the kind of deck that will run this is an aggro deck. And the kind of deck that runs this, being an aggro deck, what you don't want to see is something like a Tinkerbell Grab Your Swords, is something like a Be Prepared, is something like a Big Sizu. So now with Ink Geyser, you play some Diablos, you play some Curse Merfolks, you don't go above 3 ink, maybe you do, maybe you go to 6 ink and then you drop this and you're like, oh look, I had no hand and now I have 3 cards in my hand. This is wonderful. What a great day for me as an aggro player. What a bad day for you as a control player. I think this card is incredible. I think we're going to see a lot of green blue aggro decks because of this card, because of how strong it is. And I think that it just, even for a Baja Blast deck, if you're a Baja Blast deck and you get to a big board, you can play this. This is essentially a Pete. Like that's what Ink Geyser is. Ink Geyser is essentially a Pete in the sense that you get all of your stuff down, you get a Clarabelle down, you get some big cards down, and then you're like, here's an Ink Geyser. Now build up your ink again. I have like 3 more turns to quest out before you get to your B prep turn, before you get to your big Sizu turn. Ink Geyser is phenomenal. I think it is 100% a 5. I think it will be included in any green-blue deck, whether it is Baja Blast, whether it is a aggro deck, a tempo deck, a control deck, it will be included. And this card makes me smile. So it makes me smile a lot. Let's move on, though, to our next card. And our next card is the Mad Hatter. And when your name is Meyer Madness, you're always excited about a Mad Hatter card. Anything Alice in the Wonderland, you're always super excited for. He is a 6-cost inkable. He is a 3/5/2 dual ink of Emerald and Ruby. And unbirthday present. Whenever a damaged character challenges another character, you may draw a card. Unfortunately, the Madhouse has not yet seen a good Alice in the Wonderland card, in my opinion. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any. And Mad Hatter sits there in that same boat. He is inkable, which is great, but he's a 6-cost 3/5. And whenever a damaged character challenges another character, you may draw a card. That's awesome, but generally I don't really want my characters to be damaged anyways. And he only quests for 2. Unfortunately, as excited as I am for Mad Hatter, I think Mad Hatter's our first one, and I just don't see him being played in anything right now, which is really sad for me to say, but I think that's the truth of the matter, unfortunately. So moving on from our first one, we have, I'm going to butcher his name probably, Yokai. We'll call him Yokai. All right, he's a 2-cost inkable. He is a 1/2/1, and he is an Emerald Sapphire. He's a Storyborn villain and a new inventor. All right, so innovate. You pay 1 less ink to play characters using their shift ability. So this is kind of cool. The problem with this is that blue decks on turn 2 are playing 2 of the strongest cards in the game, being Chien-Po and being Sail the Azurite Sea, because they want to ramp. Now, on the flip side of that, maybe you don't play this necessarily on 2. Maybe you play this on 3. Maybe you still ramp on turn 2, then turn 3, you go to 4 ink, you play this, and you can still shift something. And because it costs 1 less, so if you have a shift 3, you can still shift it that turn. He lets you cheat stuff, and I'm always a fan of cheating things. It's powerful when you can just change lines of play that people might not expect. What is Baja Blast currently trying to cheat? There's Big Clarabelle, so that's a thing, but it can be played in any green-blue. So Big Clarabelle, maybe, no. Well, Big Clarabelle, that's about the only thing that comes across my mind right now. But they can already cheat Big Clarabelle down pretty early. They can already get that down on turn 4. So I don't know. I think there's something there. I like that he can make you cheat stuff. I'm going to give him a 3 because of that ability. And I just, cards that let you cheat are always going to show up in a deck. They're always going to find a place. We just need the better deck builders to figure out what that is and figure out what the different shift targets are as well. Off the top of my head, I can't think of them any besides Clarabelle, but I think there's options here. A little weak on the stats, but again, being able to cheat stuff is pretty good. So I'm going to give him a 3, and we'll we'll go with that. So moving on, we have Mr. Smee. He is a 3-cost on Inkable. He's a 3/3/1. He is an Emerald Steel. And then Pipe Up the Crew. Whenever you play an action that isn't a song, you may ready chosen pirate character. And he is also a villain, a pirate, and a captain. So he's a captain for the other Mr. Smee. So Mr. Smee doesn't take damage. You may ready chosen pirate character. So if you play an action, maybe you ready Smee, so he can't even be banished. I don't, off the top of my head, I don't play green steel, or emerald steel, so I can't think of what pirates there are. Now we did see a lot of pirates in the last set, so maybe now there's that ability for things to really start coming on. There is the new Tigger, so maybe you play Tigger on 3 and then you play this and you can start playing actions and your Tigger's questing for all this stuff, and but you don't really want to play an action after Tigger because Tigger gets +1 lore for every action you play, so that doesn't really work. I'm going to give Mr. Smee Efficient Captain a 2 because off the top of my head, I can't think of any like strategies that are going to really make you want to play this. And he is uninkable. So not being able to think of anything off the top of my head and being uninkable is red flags for me. But I love pirate synergy because we just don't we have a lot of pirate pieces. We're just missing things to make pirate synergy work. So maybe this is it. But right now I can't think of anything off the top of my head. So we're gonna give him a 2 for now. Maybe he should be a 1, but we'll give him a 2 because, well, we like pirates here. So moving on, we have Danahi, and he is a 3-cost inkable 3/2. He is reckless and resist +2, as well as a ruby steel. And ruby steel is kind of hot right now. We just saw Jonathan do really well with some crazy fan the flames and Maui half shark stuff. We'll be talking about his deck in my video tomorrow. But looking at Danahi, reckless resist +2 comes down on 3. I mean, he can challenge into a lot and won't be banished, which is really nice. Challenges into snakes. They've already got Calhoun, so maybe they do run this and it helps control the board. I didn't look much at Jonathan's list yet to see what that was doing, but I don't know. Maybe this is another card, but again, Ruby Steel doesn't really. They don't really have an issue with cards that challenge. They've always done really good about challenging things. What they have an issue with is card draw, and this doesn't help with that. But 3-cost, resist +2, so he's hard to get rid of. I don't know. I'm going to give him a 3. That resist +2 is really sexy. I really like that. He is reckless, but again, resist +2 is with reckless isn't the worst thing, because even if they keep something ready, like, oh, I'm gonna get you, like, there's not a lot of things to keep ready that Danahi will get banished by anyways. Maybe a fox, but then they don't have a fox on the field, so you're happy about that. You're happy about the goat being gone, whatever those things might be. So we're gonna give him a 3. I think there might be a world where he's played. That resist +2, anything with resist is always pretty sexy. So I like that resist +2, and that's what I keep coming back to. So for now, we'll give him a 3, an optimistic 3. We love Brother Bear. What's not to love? So, anyways, moving on. We've got a 6-cost. We have Hades, Fast Talker. We have a 6-cost on Inkable. He's a 4/6/2. And for just a little pain, when you play this character, you may deal 2 damage to another chosen character of yours to banish chosen character with 3 cost or less. And he is a purple, he's an amethyst ruby card. And so essentially, here's where this card sits at right now, is if you play this card, it has to take the place of most likely a Medusa, right? Because Medusa is the one that's banishing something with 3 cost or less. So, the advantage of this is it's a 4/6. It quests for 2. Medusa only quests for 1. It is a 4/4, so it doesn't get banished by other Medusas. Like, your Medusa doesn't get banished by other Medusas, but this is a 4/6. It can trade into things. It's not very easy to take care of, but you have to deal 2 damage to another chosen character of yours, and that doesn't feel good either. So you just don't have a lot of characters sitting around that you want to be taking damage. Like so this it's cool that it when you play this yeah, so it only works when you play this character. So I just don't imagine a world where it ever replaces Medusa. It just can't. Like it cannot replace Medusa. There's not a world where it can, because Medusa's kind of that you play B prep and then you answer whatever they play with a Lady Medusa or a Lady Tremaine. But if you play B prep and you can't follow up with a character and Hades, then now Hades just sits in your hand completely useless. So, well, wait, to another chosen character of yours. So when you play this character, you may deal 2 damage. So I guess you could, so you don't have to use his effect essentially. You can just play him as a 4/6/2, but then he's just a vanilla 4/6/2, and that's not very exciting either. Not when you just use B prep to control the board, and now you just play a 4/6/2. So I'm gonna I'm gonna give him a 2. I don't know. I just feel like when red purple is trying to control the board, maybe a two's too harsh. Maybe it is a 3, but I'm gonna give it a 2 for now. And because what the thing that comes to mind is how you're trying to control the game when you're playing red purple, and that is you play a lot of characters down. Your characters stay there. If you're forced to use a B prep because you lose control of the board, you can. And then when they play their 1 character, or maybe their 2 characters, you play a Tremaine or a Medusa, and then you just start bouncing them. And the Hades just doesn't do that. It's just a 4/6/2 vanilla if you don't have another character down. So I'm gonna give it a 2. I really like this artwork. There's the owl in the background, and that is really cool. But moving on from our 2 on Hades, we have Restoring the Heart, and this is a 1-cost inkable. It is a amber sapphire dual ink that remove up to 3 damage from chosen character or location. Draw a card. So interesting. It's a draw card for 1. When you look at blue yellow, they do struggle with draw sometimes. Well, a lot of the time they struggle with draw. Their only draw is really Rapunzel. So now you have this card to draw. Blue yellow though is typically trying to play a lot of cards, like character cards, because they're typically aggro decks. Um, Removing up to 3 damage is cool. Drawing 1 card is cool. We'll give it a 3. It removes damage and it draws a card. Like, what's not to love? I don't know how much utilization it will have, to be honest. I think it's going to be one of those cards that just fills your bulk box. So we'll give it a 2. I think this is a 2. It might be a 1. Maybe I'm not being strict. Maybe I'm being too nice, but it might be a 1. But we'll give it a 2. I think this card's a 2. It's a cantrip, but unfortunately, it's a really bad cantrip. You challenge into something, and then you play this to remove 3 damage and draw a card. But at that point, you're probably able to use Rapunzel anyways. So, yeah, we'll give it a 2. An optimistic 2 on Restoring the Heart. Next up, we have Perla. She is a 3/2/1. She's a 3-cost inkable and an amber emerald card, evasive and support. Amber emerald is typically discard. We did see some hyper aggro, or we've seen hyper aggro in the past. I featured one, I think 2 videos ago on that won a Scar Set Champs playmat. Evasive and support. So it's a 3/2 evasive. Unfortunately, that gets banished by Sir Hiss. It gets banished by Genie, and Genie lives. Support, giving something 3 attack is pretty sexy, but it comes down on turn 3. So if you're a hyper aggro deck, then playing something on turn 3 that only quests for 1 feels pretty bad as well. You could play this with World's Greatest Criminal Mind to give your opponent plus 3 attack. So that's kind of cool. And then you banish your opponent's character with World's Greatest Criminal Mind. Perla, I think, is I think is a 1. I just don't see a world where you care to play this. It's a on turn 3 if you're only playing something that quests for 1 that has such a minor effect. I just don't see the desire there. You would never play this in the discard deck. You don't play this in hyper aggro. It's too slow for hyper aggro. So yeah, unfortunately, Perla, I'm giving a 1. So maybe we need, yeah, we'll stick with a 1. Moving on from Perla. Next up, we have Calhoun, and uh, she is a 5/5/2, a 6 cost inkable, and she is in the Amber Ruby dual ink, and she is a shift 4. Whenever this character challenges another character, you may return a racer character card from your discard to your hand. So right now, there's no shift target for Calhoun. We do not have one. One has not been revealed. Spoiler in the spoiler video. I'd imagine we're going to see one, right? Because like one has to come. Because if they didn't show one, then this is 100% useless. So for now, it's pretty much a 1. Now, assuming there's a shift target coming, let's assume there is one coming and look at the card that way. So it's a hero, it's a racer, it's a 5/5/2. Whenever this character challenges another character, you may return a racer character card from your discard to your hand. So, what kind of implications does that have? Your racers do a lot to move to locations for free, so this gets thrown in a location deck for sure. You move to locations for free to gain lore, to draw cards. Um, so we'll give it a 3, assuming there's a shift target coming. If there's no shift target this set, it is the lowest of 1s, like the lowest of the lowest of the lowest of 1s possible. But assuming there's a shift target coming, we're going to give it a 3 for now. The fact that it brings cards back to your hand is I always like it's essentially draw, and I'm a big fan of draw. Anything that draws you cards, we've always seen find a way into the meta for the most part. Yzma never really kicked off last set, but I think that's really good. And all the racer cards have really good synergy with what they're trying to do. So I'd imagine we're going to see some kind of just-in-time racer location deck that's going to really pop off, and maybe this is the card to do it. And another Calhoun. Calhoun is, well, one of the best 2 costs in the game, so maybe we see another really good 2 cost Calhoun coming out. I'm interested to see. So for now, 3. We're giving Calhoun a 3. Moving on, we have Pascal. He is a 4 cost uninkable. He is a 3/3/3. He is an Amber Amethyst evasive. So first off, again, artwork phenomenal. Love Pascal. My wife's going to be Pascal for an upcoming run we're doing at Disney World, the Princess Challenge. If you're going to the Princess Challenge, let me know. All right, we'll have to meet up for sure. As far as the card goes, 3/3/3, pretty good. Evasive, pretty good. Doesn't get banished by an Elsa, doesn't get banished by a genie. That is pretty awesome. 4 cost on inkable, not so great. The purple yellow hyper aggro decks already run quite a few on inkables, but if we look at something like the purple yellow Mufasa decks, they don't have so many. And this feels pretty good to flip off of Mufasa. This feels pretty good to play in a Mufasa deck. Because on turn 4, I haven't played that deck a whole lot, but maybe you play Goat, maybe you're dropping, a 3 and a 1 or 2 2s or whatever. But for this card, I'm gonna give a 3. It might even be a 4. No, the fact that it's uninkable, I think I have to give it a 3. But I think this will find a place not in hyper aggro, but I think it will find a place in those purple yellow Mufasa decks. I really think it has a place to shine there and do a lot with being evasive and being, 3, questing for 3. Popping that off of Mufasa would be super sexy. Like, that is going to do a lot of work. So we'll give Pascal a 3. And moving on, we have Bolt. So we have a shift target for our first Bolt. And what does this Bolt do? He's a headstrong dog. He is a 1/3/1. He is a 2 cost inkable. There's no turning back. Whenever this character quests, if he has no damage, you may draw a card, then choose and discard a card. He's kind of like a Simba, except he has to quest to do it. And this is where things get rough. Because if you're looking at Steel Song, for example, because the shift target is an Amber Steel card, on turn 2, you're typically playing a Smee, or even better, you're playing an Ursula, because Ursula lets you sing cards. And this is even more important if on turn 1 you don't play Cinderella, because if you don't play Cinderella on 1 or Ursula on 2, you can't sing until possibly turn 3. Now, with that being said, Bolt is a shift target that lets you play, in my opinion, an extremely strong card. Like, extremely strong. So, I'm going to give Bolt a 3. And I'm probably am biased because of like, we just need a shift target to play the Bolt. Is it great? Would I rather this be a 1 cost? If it was a 1 cost, it'd be a 4, maybe even a 5. And I wouldn't have any shame in saying that. Whenever this character quests, most likely he would never quest because you're keeping him alive for the shift. But if he does, then that's nice that you can start digging for stuff. Like, that's not an awful ability. If he has no damage, you may draw a card, then choose and discard a card. So you don't have to draw, but maybe you're stuck on 3 wheels. And that happens all the time to Steel Song players. It happened to me this weekend. You can discard that wheel to get another card. So I'm going to give Bolt a 3 because as of right now, he is our only shift target for a phenomenal card. So he's a 3. I like him. I'm happy to see the shift target. I hope we see a better shift target. But moving on from Bolts, we have Dr. Calico, and he is the green-eyed man. He's a 3/4/1. He's a 4-cost inkable, and you're beginning to irk me. While this character has no damage, he gains resist +2. This is a sticky boy. He is going to stick around because first off, you have to send something that does at least 3 damage into him to, like, and then you only deal 1 damage, so now he's a 3/3 still. So this card is just incredibly hard to remove, and that is super sexy. He only quests for 1 though, and he doesn't come out till turn 4. So if you're playing Steel, what are you doing with this card? If I'm looking at it from an Amber Steel point of view, my turn 4 is something like Rapunzel or Prince Naveen, or playing literally anything and then singing a whole new world with my whatever I did on turn 3. This card just isn't doing a whole lot. Like, he's not, if he was questing for 2, this would be a 5. This would be a 5 if he was questing for 2, but questing for 1 is just too slow. It's too slow to do anything because you're going into turns where they're going to be playing Maui soon, Medusa soon, where the resist +2 doesn't even matter if a Maui hits into it because it deals 6 damage anyways. Maui Half Shark banishes this character. I just don't see it. You can't Zeus it, so there's something, right? You'd have to deal some damage to it and then play Zeus on it. But it's only questing for 1, so I don't really care to Zeus it. I'm gonna give him a 3. There might be a world, because he is so sticky, because he's going to be so hard to get rid of off the board, he very well could see play, so it's hard for me to give him less than a 3, because he is playable. He's a very playable card. I just don't know in what yet, where you might want to use turn 4 to play a card that is only questing for 1, and then could possibly trade into things. So, yeah, for now, we'll give him a 3. Good luck, Dr. Calico. Next up, we have another Bolt, and look how cute Bolt is. He is a 2/4/2. He's a 4-cost inkable, and he is support. He is a hero. Unfortunately, my cute puppy, my cute boy here is a 2, maybe a 2, a high 1 possibly, but we're gonna give him a 2 because look how cute he is in this picture. But I just don't see what deck is gonna want to play this card. We're getting a lot of support like we're seeing a lot of support coming in for yellow, but again, where do you play this? Why do I want to play a 2/4 that quests for 2 on turn 4 in a yellow deck? You don't care about this in purple, yellow. I don't see it. So unfortunately, my boy here is going to be a 2. So moving on, we have Mittens, a 5-cost uninkable. He is a 4/5/2 bodyguard, and no thanks necessary. Once during your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, your other characters with bodyguard get +1 this turn. So you play this on turn 5. He's a 4/5 bodyguard with 2. Maybe you have some other bodyguards down, or other bodyguards right now, or maybe Chien-Po. You have the Donald Duck. You have Baloo. So there are a lot of bodyguards, but it's a 5-cost uninkable in an amber deck. And it's bodyguard characters. So bodyguards automatically, your opponent's taking it out because it has to get to your other characters. So they don't stick around very long. It quests for 2 and it's a 4/5. So it is a sticky card. But you could just play Pluto on 4 that is inkable, or Chien-Po on turn 5 that is also inkable. It only quests for 1, but it's a 4/7. So I think we already just have better. I think we already just have better bodyguards. I don't see why you play this. I think there is a card that does other synergies with bodyguard, maybe like a Mickey Mouse, maybe one of the Musketeer Mickey Mouses. So maybe that's something, but off the top of my head, I can't remember what it does. Right now, I'm going to give it a 3 because I like synergy cards. It's a 4/5, so it is sticky. It does quest for 2. That uninkable just really eats me up though. So it may be more like a 2, but I'm going to give it a low 3. Because just something in the back of my mind is saying you're missing an important synergy card here that makes this really good, and I just don't see it yet. So for now, we'll stick with 3 for Mittens. We'll stick with 3 for Mittens here. All right. Moving on, we've got Edgar Balthazar. He is a 6/5/1. He is a 5-cost inkable vanilla card. He is a 1. All right. I don't see a world where you play this card. There's no reason to play this card. Maybe you're playing a just-in-time deck and you want a 6/5/1, but I think we already have a 6/5. I think he's uninkable. The Denahi, he might be uninkable, but yeah, nope. 6/5/1 on turn 5 that is vanilla. He is a 1. That's all I got for you, Edgar. Goodbye. Moving on, we have He's a Tramp. He 1-cost inkable. Action song. Chosen character gets +1 attack this turn for each character you have in play. So this is really interesting because this is an action. So this is a 1-cost action. This banishes any vanish character that your opponent may play, because you can just give your opponent's vanishing character +1 attack and then they get banished because of it. So it could be really strong if vanish gets really popular. As far as chosen character gets +1 attack this turn, I think of the Stitch, right? Where you can give the Stitch +1 attack, and that saw 0 play this entire set. Giving things +1 attack just doesn't mean a whole lot. In my opinion, typically Steel isn't doing much with that. I mean, you could make Calhoun into a monster, right? Just imagine like a massive Calhoun that can trade into like a Chernobogs. Like, that'd be pretty cool. But I'm going to give this a 2, maybe a 3. No, probably a 2, because I'm going to give it a 2. It's a cheap song, so maybe that means it should be better than a 2. I mean, even a cursed merfolk could sing this song. So if you really needed a song for whatever reason, I mean, there's that. Like, I guess. But I'm going to give it a 2. Unfortunately, I just don't see it doing much other than banishing vanish characters. So next up, we do have Duchess. She is a 2-cost inkable, a 3/2/1. She is a hero. She's an emerald card. She is vanilla. I think you'd rather just play Bonsai. I'm going to give Duchess a low 2, an extremely low 2. I'm really happy to see Duchess. I really like Aristocats. Unfortunately, I just don't see a world where you play Duchess. I'd rather just play Bonsai. The decks that run Bonsai, that uninkable, doesn't really bother you too much. If you ran Duchess, you lose that lore ability, so you could play a different uninkable, ? But what other one would you rather play anyways? So Duchess is probably a 1, but I'll give her a 2. Maybe there's a world and a green player is going to see why this card can be really good. So we'll stick with 2 for now because maybe. All right. So next up, we have Tramp, the enterprising dog. He is a 1/3/1, a 2-cost inkable. And hey, Pidge, if you have a character named Lady in play, you pay 1 less to play this character. All right. No time for wisecracks. When you play this character, chosen character of yours gets +1 attack this turn for each other character in play. Okay, so if you have a character named Lady in play, so if there's a lady that you can play on 1, then you can play this for 1 and then play another 1 drop. And when you do play this, chosen character of yours gets +1 attack. So your lady gets +1 attack. I don't know if there's a lady 1 drop. I know there isn't one right now, but maybe there's one revealed later on. 1/3/1 for 2. Because when you look at this card, you have to look at it as a 2 drop. You can't sit here and look at it and be like, yeah, this is a 1 drop. Because if there's only 4 ladies, if there's only one drop lady, then you're not guaranteed that 1 drop every single time, as we've all learned. I'm gonna give Tramp here 2. His synergy with Lady is cool, but unfortunately, the synergy with Lady is just a little too much to ask for. Maybe it's a 1. Maybe I'm again being too nice, but Tramp, unfortunately, a 2 for now. And moving on. All right, so next up on the list, we have Berlioz from Aristocats. He's a 3-cost inkable. He's a 2/5/1. Now this is interesting. He's a kind of a beefy boy. This is a card that doesn't get cleared by Broom and Crab. It doesn't get cleared by Fox alone. It has to be Zeus if you want to remove it. It's really interesting. I don't know. I don't know how to rate this one because 2 attack is really bad. 2 attack doesn't do anything to get your go-go ready to go. But he's just hard to remove. He's a sticky card that quests for 1, but he is a vanilla. So maybe a 3 is the best I can do for him. I mean, I know for a fact that 3 is best I can do for him. The question is, should he be lower? Would be my question for all of you guys. But I'm gonna stick with a 3. I'm optimistic about what he could possibly do, just because he's a 2/5/1. If I look back though, I feel like Amber had a couple of these. I know they had Gopher that was like a 0/7 or um so I don't know. Maybe 3 is way too high. We'll go with a 2 because he is just a vanilla that quests for 1. So I think 2 is more accurate. So we got a 2 for Berlioz. Moving on, we have Marie. So we have all of the Aristocat kittens, which I would hope to see if you're showing off Aristocats. And she is a 1/2/2, 2-cost inkable. And whenever this character quests, you may give chosen character -2 this turn. Man, blue steel players are just turning over in their graves right now. They just can't get nothing, can they? Because you just don't play this card. It's cute that it quests for 2, but if you look at decks that might run this, I mean, maybe you run it in green-blue, right? Maybe it's a card you can run in green-blue. It's an aggro card. Whenever this character quests, you may give chosen character -2 this turn. If it was until next turn, or like until the start of your turn, then that would be different. That would make this card really, really good in my opinion. But the fact that it just quests for 2 on your turn, or the fact that it gives chosen character -2 this turn is really bad. I mean, what? Sure, your 1-drop Captain Hook can trade into something, but they probably don't turn sideways anyways. I don't know. Unfortunately, I think Marie is just really bad. Maybe the Geyser gives her an opportunity to see play because she quests for 2, but she's only going to quest for 2 once because then she's banished and they get a character for free that takes 1 damage. So I'm going to give Marie a 2, unfortunately. But the Aristocat franchise type deck is very much alive with all these card reveals today. Moving on, we have Thomas O'Malley, and he's a 4/2/1 3-cost inkable with Ward. So, we know we all love Ward. We all are happy to see Ward all the time. 4/2, so he trades into a lot of things. But again, he's only questing for 1. And questing for 1 in a green deck, it needs to be doing something really strong. Like really, 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 really strong. And Ward is cool, but anything can trade into it. I mean, pretty much almost anything. And only questing for 1 is just not doing it for me. I'm gonna give Thomas O'Malley a 2 as well. I just don't see it. I mean, I just don't see it. I'm gonna give him a 2. I'd rather just play Prince Philip, the 3/2 ward that quests for 2. So sorry, O'Malley, but moving on. We have Lady, and here's our Lady. Here's the Lady that we needed for the Tramp, and also the Lady for another card. So, Lady, she's a 1/2/1 uninkable 1-drop. When you have a character named Tramp in play, this character gets +1. So now you have a 1-drop that's questing for 2, as long as you have Tramp on turn 2, and that just doesn't feel great, because when we go back to Tramp, right here, his effect, sure, you get to play him. You could if you have Lady down, you can play 2 1-drops, but this effect right here, your chosen character gets +1 attack this turn. You're not going to use that on Lady because you'd rather Lady quested for 2. So that synergy doesn't go well together. So he's not really a 2-drop then, and her last name is Loyal. That's pretty cool, the artist. But anyways, I don't see where Lady replaces Brooms and Green Purple or Diablo or Pegasus or Cursed Merfolk. I think Lady's gonna be a 2 as well. I don't see it for Lady either. I don't see a deck where you want to run this card. I'd rather just play Cursed Merfolks in that uninkable slot that just does more. So, yeah, moving on. We have Tulaus. Let me know. He's a 1/3/1. He is a 1-cost inkable. Man, they're just doing Aristocats dirty right now. I'm gonna give him a 2. I just don't see this as well. I like the artwork that we got. I love this right here. That's really cool. So really good job to the artist for this card. But I'm gonna give him a 2. He's a 1/3/1. He's a 1/3/1. Like we don't really care about those stats on a vanilla card when there's no shift target for him either, or no like big shift card. So unfortunately, you're a no-go for me, buddy. I'm sorry. The kitties are not showing up. The Troubadour, though, is a 1/3/1 quest for 2, and he is a resist 1 singer 4 amber steel card. And this is really interesting because this is one card that I've already seen people chatting about, and I find it really interesting because a lot of people are like, this is the best thing ever since sliced bread, and goodbye Ursula. And it's a lot of people saying this that don't play Steel Song. And hear me out. Ursula is an amazing card. It is the card that lets you win on the draws against the mirror. Troubadour is even better at helping you win those on the draws against the mirror. That's about it in my book. It just doesn't. I mean, Fox still banishes it. Crab plus Broom still banishes it. It lives against Crab plus Diablo, so there's that. But it still dies to Maui. It still gets banished if they run the uninkable Mulan. And so here's why I think the Ursula is still better than this card, Rapunzel. If you guys have never played Steel Song, or if you have, you know that the deck dies if it does not draw cards some way, because a lot of the cards in your hand are used to remove other cards. So it's not just playing a bunch of characters. Like Green Purple has a bunch of cards in hand, but they're all characters to play down, so your hand doesn't get emptied immediately. But if I go Cinderella into Troubadour, and I have two songs in my hand that aren't Let the Storm Rage on, I am now down 6 cards with that. My 2 ink, my 2 songs, my 2 singers. And just like that, if I was on the play, I've only drawn 7, 8, 9 cards, 10 cards up to this point, and I've used 6 of them. That doesn't feel good. That doesn't bode well for me. And then to lose all the ability as a Rapunzel target, not all of it, because he's still a 1/3 with resist +1, but the maximum value you can get from him now is to draw 2. And there's so many times that Rapunzel is drawing me 3 cards off of Ursula, and like that is powerful. The ability to use Ursula to sing a song onto herself, and you can't do that as well with Troubadour. Like there, you just lose so much because of that resist +1, and I just don't see it. I'm gonna give Troubadour a 4. I do think he's really good, and I think a lot of people are gonna play him. If you're in a Steel Song heavy meta, I think you have to play him because of how strong he is on the draw into Steel Song. The other day at Set Champs, I was against a Diggy Diggy Hole deck, and I lost. I was in a really good position. I had Ursula on turn 2, and I was gonna go Pete, Pete, Pete. I had 3 Petes in hand. And unfortunately, he had double Let the Storm Rage on. If my Ursula had been a Troubadour, I would have been fine. So there are worlds where he will see play, 100%. He is a very good card. The question is he better than Ursula? Right now, I do not think so. I do not think the resist +1 is enough. But I still think he's a really good card. There's some people that would rather just run 8 Ursulas, So now you can run 4 Troubadours and 4 Ursulas. But I think he is definitely a 4. He will see play in decks, especially early on as people try and decide, is he better than Ursula? So I like this card. I think this is a neat card. It gives us options. It mixes things up. It breaks parity. A lot of really good things. Moving on. We have Spaghetti Dinner. A lot of Amber cards revealed, okay? So we have a 2-cost uninkable, and if you exert this card and pay 1 ink, if you have 2 or more characters in play, gain 1 lore. So it's kind of like Spellbook. It's a really bad spellbook. That's what this is. It's a really, 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 really bad spellbook. People talk about power creep in Lorcana, and we're not seeing it. So it's kind of like Miracle Candle, except Miracle Candle gets banished. This stays around, and you gain 1 lore every time. Unfortunately, an inkable card. Unfortunately, you have to have 2 characters down, and unfortunately, you only gain 1 lore. So I'm gonna give this a 2. I just don't think it will see play. There's a world where people will definitely try and force it in so they can gain that lore, but I just don't think it's going to happen. But I like the card. Like, I think that's 2 characters in play for this scene of Lorcana or Lady and the Tramp. It's pretty great. Moving on. No, go back. Sven. He is a 5-cost inkable. He is a 2/6/1. He is a Blurple card, an Amethyst Sapphire card with Rush and Formidable Glare. When you play this character, chosen character gets -3 attack this turn. A lot of people are really down on this card. It's an interesting one. It's a 2/6, so it's really tough to get rid of. That has a lot going for it. It gives -3 attack to a character, so you can play this and it hits something, and that feels really good. You can give -3 to something while you have a crab down. Your crab trades into it and lives now. Your Chernobog's lives now. Your Broom lives now, and I don't know. This has a lot of opportunity. You never replace Elsa, right? Sven does not replace Elsa full out. Maybe you can run 2 and 2 or 3 and 1. I'm going to give Sven a 3. I think there's a lot of opportunity with this card that we look at it and say, this is a bad Elsa. But I think you need to look at this card and be like, this is not a bad Elsa. This is a Sven. Like, in that it has a lot of opportunity, and I refuse to give it less than a 3. And it's a rush character. I think it has possibility. I think it has really good possibility. It's a beefy card, and that -3 is a big deal. Like, you trade into a Smee for free. Like, that's pretty exciting. So I don't know. I'm going to give it a 3. I'm excited for Sven. So moving on, we have Lady that you all just saw. She is a 4/4/2, 5 cost on Inkable. She is an Amber Emerald card. She is a Shift 3 and something wonderful. When you play this character, you may return up to 2 character cards with cost 2 or less each from your discard to your hand. I love this card. I think this card is so good. I think this is a really good card for a green-yellow hyper aggro deck, and it's not even because it's shift. I think the shift is unfortunately what makes it cost 5. I think if it didn't have shift, it could cost 4, but I think that this card is a 4. I think that you will never run 4 of these in your deck, but I think you would run 2 of them. Because when you play, if you top deck this card in a green-yellow deck, you say, here's this card. Oh, look at my Chernobogs in the discard. Look at my Pegasus. Look at, not Chernobogs, my Curse Merfolks. Sorry. My Curse Merfolks, my Lilos, my, I don't know, green-yellow 1-drops, right? And green-yellow, again, is a hyper aggro deck that sometimes suffers from draw problems. So you play Lady, it's a 4/4/2, and it quests for 2 already, and you get to draw 2 cards, essentially. So this is not something that you play because it's shift. This is something you play because it's just a good card, and that's why I'm giving Lady a 4. I think she will 100% see play in a green-yellow hyper aggro deck. Moving on, we have Beast. He is a 6 cost uninkable. He is a 5/5/2. I've had it. You exert this character, you pay 2 ink, banish 2 of your items, deal 5 damage to chosen character. Unfortunately, I think Beast is probably a 2, if not a 1. 6 cost uninkable is just too much for that. Your Flaversham's already getting rid of your items. That's what you'd rather use your items for. You can't you can't use his effect on the turn you play him. And even then it would cost 7 ink. It only quests for 2. It's a 5/5, which is neat, but I mean, Hero, Prince, Inventor, maybe you can use that somehow, but I'm going to give him a 2. Unfortunately, it feels bad to give Beast a 2, and great artwork, but I have to give him a 2. And moving on to another one, we have Belle, which is a 7/7/3, 9 cost inkable. She is a shift 7. For each item card in your discard, you pay 1 less ink to play this character using her shift ability. Whenever this character quests, you may put up to 3 item cards from your discard on the bottom of your deck to gain 1 lore for each item card moved this way. This is wacky. I didn't look ahead of time. This card's been out for a while, but I haven't looked into it. I do not know if there are any red or blue bells off the top of my head. So that's gonna That's going to potentially change what my rating will be, or affect it in some way. But the fact that if you have 2 items in play, she becomes a shift 5. 3 items in play, she becomes a shift 4. Like, that's pretty exciting. I mean, that's really cool effect. So maybe your Oswald item decks are coming out to play, and Belle can help do that, being a 7/7/3. Because if you shift her on 4, like, there's not a lot, like, they have to trade Fox Crab into that, and that doesn't feel necessarily great. I mean, it does, because your quest, like, you're removing a 3 quest card, but also, if you have 3 items down, and then you move 3 items to the bottom of your deck, you gain 1 lore for each of them. That feels pretty good. What feels really bad, though, is that now you lose those items for your Flaversham triggers. You lose those items for the draw engine from Tamatoa. So I don't know if that, like, I don't know what else you do then. Oswald's bringing all these items back, but at the same time, we still have the same issue with items in that you can't play a heavy item deck if we don't see items that are banishing characters and doing lots of damage and AoE damage to help you control the board. So right now, we just don't have that. And so because of that, and because I can't think of any Belle targets off the top of my head, I'm going to have to give Belle a 2. I just don't see we just don't have the cards for her to be good right now. We need item cards that do something to the board. And right now we just don't have a lot of that. I mean, we have like Poison Apple that my buddy Vince did really well with, and it can banish princesses and it can exert characters, but I just don't see this card being able to shine yet. So I'm going to give Belle a 2, unfortunately. Great looking card though. The artists are killing it like they always kill it. Not this time. They always kill it, and they continue to impress with this like hot air balloon. Like awesome. Moving on, we have Jafar newly crowned, and he's a 2/4/2 4-cost inkable with that hex crown up here. During an opponent's turn, whenever one of your illusion characters is banished, you may return that card to your hand. So if you're playing purple steel and you play a heavy illusion deck, we know that these illusion cards, because of vanish, they're going to be strong cards because they're so quote unquote easy to remove. And so when you play a card like this that lets you return them to your hand, that can be pretty good, because now you have to focus down Jafar before you can focus down those vanish cards that we know are going to be good cards. And that makes things annoying. It's like when green purple plays Lyle and you realize that I have to remove Lyle before I can remove other things that I'd rather be removing, because if I remove all of them, I'm just going to lose all the lore that I've worked so hard to gain. And so I think I'm going to give Jafar a 3. I can't give him more than that. He's a 2/4/2. Most likely you never quest with him anyways. He kind of sits there like Prince John or Muses, never turns sideways, and just you use that effect over and over and over again. But his effect is good. It's giving you draw power that you really need. And I wonder if let's go all the way to the back. Bear with me. I want to look at the Cobra. So illusion. So you could bring back the giant cobra if you play Jafar, and yeah, if you play Jafar, you could bring back giant cobra. So that is really good. You have this 4/4/1 that's questing, and then if they have to remove your Jafar before they can remove giant cobra. Otherwise, giant cobra goes back to their hand, and they could potentially gain 2 more lore. So that is you with a card like that, like you could see how Jafar could be a really, really good card. And for that reason, I have to give Jafar a 3. I think that he enables combos that are going to be really, really good. And also, this was worked on by 2 artists. So that's really interesting. I wonder how many of those we have. But moving on, we have Iago, another illusion card. And he is a 4/6/1 evasive and vanish. And this says goodbye to Genie. Like, goodbye Genie. That really powerful evasive 2/4/2 that draws a card. Iago now comes in and says goodbye. You were gone. You don't get to play anymore. And that's that. I mean, Iago and Crab answers Maui Half Shark really well, and they can't answer Iago very well, because Iago, you just kind of play that card down. You're like, here's this 4/6 evasive that you can't remove with anything, and I'm just going to wait for you to turn your Half Shark sideways, and then I'm going to take it out as long as I have a Crab. So Iago, another card, and if you do, again, it synergizes well with Jafar newly crowned. So Iago, I'm going to give a 3. It answers the Genie. I mean, this ends the Genie war, right? There is no Genie war, because you just play this instead of your own Genie. And now their Genie literally just sits there doing nothing, because they get 2 lore and then they just get banished. So Iago coming in here doing really good things. We'll give him a 3 as well. So that's all of them. Ladies and gentlemen, this video is like an hour and a half long. If you guys stayed to the whole thing, let me know, because I would be really impressed. I can't imagine anyone sits through the whole thing, but if you do, you're freaking MVP. But speaking of MVPs, what is my MVP card of the day? You may think it's Bolt, but it's Ink Geyser. Again, Ink Geyser, I am so excited to see what happens with this card. It has the potential to change everything with the local meta. And it's going to be so weird. We talk about the triangle of local meta, where right now, if you have a lot of red-blue in your meta, you probably don't have a lot of steel song. So because you lose all the steel song, you probably see a whole lot of aggro come in to beat or a lot of aggro or red purple to beat the red blue. So once all those aggro and red purple come in to beat the red blue, Steel Song comes back in to beat all the aggro and red blue, and then all of the red. So it's this never ending like circle or triangle or rock paper scissors, whatever you want to call it. Well, Ink Geyser comes in, and like this isn't a super dangerous card necessarily for Amber Steel, for Steel Song, but it's still an aggro deck. And if you look at blue cards that are aggro, they all have wards, so they're a little bit more difficult to get rid of for Steel Song. So I'm really interested to see what comes out of Ink Geyser. I think this is going to be a crazy strong card. I hope I gave it a 5. If I didn't, it's most definitely a 5. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you stayed through the whole video. Let me know what you most want to see this set. I'm just pumped. I'm super excited. I'm not going to keep you guys any longer. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, more than anything else, nothing matters more. Stay happy and healthy, and I will see you next time.